Dude, what the heck is this thing? Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome to the MrMaple Show. I'm Matt.
Hey guys, I'm Tim. Smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We put out daily content on Japanese maples and gardening. If you like that, make sure you're subscribed because we got a lot of cool stuff on our channel.
All right guys, we do daily breakdowns, and one of our most popular things, we answer questions on Fridays. So today we're going to be going over some gardening 101, and a commonly asked question we get here at our nursery is, can two Japanese maples share one root system? Now I'm standing here with a gift given to me by our good friend and one of our mentors in the nursery trade, a guy who's helped us so much here at our nursery, Richard Bomar. Now Richard gifted us this tree. It's a Shishigashira over top of a Crimson Queen.
Now often you may see a green understock coming out from underneath a red Japanese maple, and that's not what we're talking about. That's a rootstock that's overgrowing your tree. That should be trimmed out. What we're talking about today is, can two Japanese maples be grafted on the same root system? And as you can see right here, they definitely can be.
Yeah, we call this a Dantsugi. Now, that's an older Japanese term. It's actually been around as early as we've seen it, easily back to 1900 on some of the imported trees to America were Dantsugis. And that's basically where two trees are grafted onto the same root system. Now, this is a good example of how to do one correctly. Now, we don't typically do a lot of these here at our nursery because we are kind of cultivar purists. So we like for Japanese maples to look like what you expect them to look like. So when you buy a Shishigashira, we want you to know exactly what you're getting. Kind of like breeds of dogs, we want you to understand exactly what that's going to be. But you can get super creative with these Dantsugis and create, some interesting collaborations between two trees. This again is a Crimson Queen and a Shishigashira. Now the aesthetic behind this tree was to kind of look like a ballerina. So it's got a skirt here and then an upright form here. And that's a good example of a Dantsugi that tends to work. One of the problems with Dantsugis is that one tree does tend to become dominant over the other. I'll show you some examples here in a minute of one that didn't work so well.
Now the balancing is really important. This one seemed to work out great because the two aren't competing for space. That also means they're not competing for sunlight. And because of that, this Dantsugi really seemed to work very well because one tree didn't become more dominant than the others. The Crimson Queen stayed low while the Shishigashira was allowed to grow higher, creating this ballerina type appearance where you've got the ballerina up here with the red skirt down below.
Now people ask me, can this work? And I often tell them yes, but it's going to take some steps to maintain. So remember that when you have a Dantsugi, it may take a little bit more work than a regular Shishigashira and a Crimson Queen alone. Because what you're going to have to do is make sure that one tree doesn't become dominant over the other and kind of take all the energy away from it. Typically the green Japanese maple in the equation does tend to become dominant, gets more chlorophyll than the red or the variegated form, and you tend to get one becoming more dominant over time. Now, again, this is a good example of a better symbiotic relationship here because the Crimson Queen's allowed to spread out and stay low, where the other tree's allowed to get tall.
So let's go check out one of the Japanese maples where it didn't work out.
All right, guys, we're here in Hillstone Arboretum with a former Dantsugi. This one used to be a Dantsugi that I grafted myself, but it is a Dantsugi no more. Now it is all one thing. So at one point, I'd grafted a Waterfall and a Red Dragon onto the same rootstock, but the tree wasn't properly maintained. So if you've toured this garden before, at one point you may have seen this exact tree and it had a bold red side to it and a bright green side to it.
Now, this is something that happens quite a bit. I mean, people all the time say, well, why don't you graft a red and a green and I get a red and green lace leaf on the same roots? And that's a really cool idea. But what happens is just what's happened here. We've got the green actually gets more chlorophyll, and so it ends up overtaking and overgrowing the bottom rootstock. I mean, this is just one example of this that we've seen. Whenever we were visiting Billy Schwartz at Green Mansion Nurseries, he had a very similar Dantsugi where there was a green starting to take over the red. The green mist was starting to overtake the red that was grafted with that tree. And so whenever you do this, you really got to think about giving themselves equal space. You got to make sure that the plants don't overshadow, don't overcrowd, because what happens if they get shaded out like this, one gets bigger than the other one just simply dies. And so the green is often the tree that becomes more dominant. And that's the one you really have to watch out for, is that green overtaking the other plant that you're grafting it with.
So guys, be prepared to prune on this. Just know it's going to take a little extra work if you do one of these. I actually maintained this tree for several years, but then after a few years I didn't, and the green overtook it. We actually eventually just cut the part off that led to the Red Dragon, because the Red Dragon was no more. The tree was completely shaded out and was hidden from this waterfall, which became completely dominant. So at one point they were a really nice balance between the two, which looked really cool. But now this tree is a great looking waterfall, but it is a Dantsugi no more. So understanding that symbiotic relationship when you create a Dantsugi is very important. You're gonna have to maintain that to keep something happy. Now, if you have different levels, that certainly helps. Like the one we were showing you before, it's a ballerina. Those different levels is one of the better ways. That tree requires minimal work to keep it looking great. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope that gives you a better understanding about the question, can 2 Japanese maples be grafted onto one root system, and what Dantsugis are?
Guys, you know, it's a really cool thing. This Dantsugi thing, it just takes a lot of work. So if you're trying this out, make sure you really work at it so that you can have a cool tree like we've got here today.
Yeah, these are typically a tree that we don't offer mail order. Because they are kind of more of a one-of-one kind of piece, we typically would have something like this available more for pickup if we did offer it. We don't do a ton of them here because we are purists for nomenclature and trying to get all that correct. We want you to have the exact thing you're looking for. And so these can kind of be a little bit more one-off. Like there's some different variables there.
And we get questions about this all the time though. So we had to bring you what to do about Dantsugis, how to get one growing properly. And you know, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. And remember, we're MrMaple.com. Make sure to support us by shopping with us.
Hey guys, if we earned it, definitely ring that bell. I often ask you to subscribe, but ringing the bell is the best way to get notified every single time we add a video. And that's 7 days a week. So if you like Japanese maples, definitely be part of our Maple Mafia by subscribing and being part of our team here. We really appreciate you guys watching.
Take care.
God bless.
And have an awesome day.